So I have a question.
Good. Your questions usually are.
I was thinking of two things that you said, and I was trying to reconcile them. The first was most of our problems come from identifying with the wrong, or with not identifying with the wrong thing, to make it short, or identifying with a self that's limited or whatever. And then on the other hand, there's this tenet in meditation about just because there's awareness, that doesn't mean that there is someone who's being aware.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of any issues coming from identifying with the wrong thing, but then when I was trying to look for the right thing to identify with, there was nothing there. How do you do that?
I'm not sure I said identifying with the wrong thing. Maybe if you just shorten it to identifying.
Just identify.
Oh.
With anything.
With anything?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you construct your identity then?
Well, why do you need to?
Why do you need to?
Why do you need to construct an identity?
I don't know. It seems like you want to know who you are, or who it is that's asking the question.
But then that relates to your second question.
Yeah.
I mean, they're two sides of the same thing.
Right.
There is just awareness, and there's all these experiences and thoughts and sensations and perceptions and feelings are all arising in awareness. And also arising in awareness is this sense of being an individual self.
Yes, there is a sense of being an individual self.
Right, of being a separate self, which is a constructed self of you, France, with all these, your own personal characteristics, your personality, your history, your hopes, your fears.
Right.
All of that stuff.
Constructed.
Constructed, and that's what we identify with. We think, and this is the way most people operate. We think I am all of these things, and that's how we operate in the world. But that's all an appearance in consciousness, which you are aware of. You are aware of France, the person doing this, all of this, and if you have a certain anxiety, you are aware of that anxiety. If you're feeling deep quiet in meditation, it's the same you that's aware of being quiet in meditation. It's that same you that is aware now of what I'm saying and the thoughts that are going through your mind as I'm saying it. And so it's not really a thing. That isn't a construct. We label that I, in the sense that that's the essential I, that same sense of I that's been there all your life. But when you try to identify it as something, when you look for it, you don't find anything. All you find are the thoughts, perceptions, sensations, and the ideas about self. You find all that. But you can't find a thing which is the subject that's doing the observing. There's just awareness, and that's what we call I, is the fact that we are aware. And that's there always. We don't notice it a lot of the time. But because it cannot be defined, it doesn't have a form. If it had a form, it would be another object of experience. If you can say that sense of being, if it had some felt sense of a quality, like a feeling in the heart or in the mind or in the body, or some sort of, if it had any sort of feeling to it or perception to it, that would make it another object of perception which you are being aware of. And so it has no form. It cannot be described in a sense. And that's why so many teachings say it's ineffable. It cannot be put into words. And yet we all know it is so familiar. It's not about discovering something new that we don't know already. It's something that we all know. And yet we don't give it much attention. We don't recognize it because our attention is directed outwards. And because it doesn't have a particular form, what we start doing is seeking to give it some form. And lots of things, our body, it said, oh, it's me here, this body, it's my history, it's my thoughts. And so we take this formless sense of being, which we label I, we take that and we dress it up with all these different clothes. And that's how we interact with other people, is through that. We don't need to, but that's how we normally do it. And that's that sense of being an individual, separate, unique identity, and that's what we identify with. So that's a construct. And that can change. We sometimes say, I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, because your values have changed, whatever, you're older, you're wiser, whatever. All of that's changing. But the you, there's two yous in that. I am not the same person I was. There's the I that is always present, is experiencing a different personality, say, now than the personality that was there 10 years ago. So that constructed self is changing, or it can change.
And it's like a river that you can't step in twice, but at the same time, there is this thing that you call a river, which again you construct as the boundaries of it is always moving. But there still seems to be something that you can point to. I mean, I was trying to experience how my experience of you is different from my experience of me.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, at any point, there is no difference when I'm experiencing you or myself. Except I know more about me because I experience myself more.
Right, but we're talking here about the individual self. And all your experience of me is, first of all, you see my body, you see my physical form, you hear my words and other things, whatever it is. They're all sensory experiences, perceptions you're having of me. And you probably guess that there's a being in there it's not a robot. but you don't actually experience that inner me from the out. You don't from your perception of me. You experience my individual, separate being in the world, which is a different being from your being in the world. And yet, you know my innermost essence being, because that is the same as yours. I mean, that sense of I-ness for me, that deep sense of beingness, has no qualities. There's nothing personal about it. That I that is aware of, that's always been here, aware all my life. It has no distinguishing characteristics. So it has to be exactly the same as how it feels for you, that sense of I, and for everyone else. It's in that sense that it's a universal self. It's not universal in the sense that we're all touching into the same thing, but it is the same for all of us. You use the analogy of a river, and what we're talking about here is the water. Every bit of water in the river is the same, but the form the water takes is determined by the shape of the river, the contours, the rocks, how fast it's flowing. So the water can take many different forms, but the essence of it, any point in the river, is the same essence. The water is the same. So that formless, indefinable quality of being aware is the same for everybody, but the unique sense of self is different for everybody, because we all have different histories. And so the identity, the identification is not so much with the wrong thing in terms of a particular choice of things, it's identifying with this constructed sense of self. Because that constructed sense of self is always vulnerable. And we spend a lot of time defending it, bolstering it, being concerned with how it appears to others or with our own feelings about ourselves. And if you look at most of your thoughts, in one way or another, there's this individual sense of self is engaged in there in one way or another. They could be thoughts about you, but thoughts about what you feel about a certain situation or what you think should happen in the world. So most of those thoughts come out of a sense of being a separate self. Because most of our thoughts, in one way or another, come from the need to feel safe, and ultimately, which is survival. The basic goal of the body is to stay alive, to keep surviving. And when something happens in the world, there's some danger, some challenge, or there's some need, whatever it is, we move into a mode which is really a sort of problem-solving mode. How do I sort this out? How do I get what I want? How do I avoid this danger? We move into solving the problem, and most of our thoughts are about solving a problem in one way or another. How do I get this? How do I avoid this? Or this is good, or looking back on the past. But they're all ultimately about survival in one way or another. And the survival is about the survival of the body. Ultimately, it's about what makes the body safe? What makes me as a physical organism safe? So survival of the body. And so most of those thoughts are based on a division of consciousness, a division of experience, so not a division of consciousness, a division of experience into me here, world out there. What do I need from the world in order to feel safe and survive? They're based upon a sense of a separate self interacting with the world. And that's the separate self which is France with your needs, ambitions, history, personality, all of that.
And in meditation, we just let go of that separate self. Or, just let go of the thoughts of the separate self.
Yes, in meditation, what we're doing is we're not following the thoughts that come from the separate self. As I say, most of your thoughts, it's there. So in meditation, during the meditation, there are no problems to solve. We're here, we're safe, the room's warm, we've got a comfortable seat. There are no problems to solve. But the mind, having a habit of thinking and getting on with solving problems, will come up with lots of things to think about. But for that period of meditation, there is nothing we need to worry about. So when we notice we're carried off on some story, some thought about something or other, we just leave it behind. As I say, the basic instruction is don't follow the thought. We just want to be with the experience in the moment, just noticing what the experience is, which can be anything from the sort of gross level of noticing the sounds, noticing the body, noticing the breath, to subtler things of noticing, maybe feelings of joy or something in the heart or that sort of thing. And ultimately, it comes down to just noticing that you are aware, and noticing that all these experiences that are flowing through you in meditation, they're all different experiences that you are aware of. And in that, we begin to recognize, in the sense of remembering, recognizing that sense of beingness, that underlying I that's always there. We begin to notice that as the mind becomes quieter, and we can just relax back into our being. We notice, yes, here I am, experiencing this, experiencing that. When you're lost in a thought, it's interesting we say lost in thought. In a sense, the you, that pure I, is lost in the thought, because the you in the thought is the separate self. And we've lost the connection, the awareness with the I-ness. So when we step out of the thought, we're able to come back more closer to our beingness. Just recognizing I am that which is experiencing this moment. So coming back to your question, it's not identifying with the wrong thing. It's identifying with anything. It's like to identify. The word to identify comes from the Latin, which is idem ficere. Idem means the same, and ficere is to make. So the word identification is to make the same as. And implicit in that is that you are not the same as, but you make the same as. So identifying the self is to say you are not your thoughts, your personality, they're just things that are happening. But you identify with that, you think you are that. That's the process of identification. Is you make yourself the same as all these different things.